Hi, everyone. Oh dear, I'm the director for a New Zealand NGO, Common Knowledge Trust. And although we house the birthing better skills that mums and dads developed in the 1970s to prepare our body for birth and skills so that we could cope and manage in all of our births working together, everybody is focusing on the coronavirus, and we want to add to the conversation because from our perspective, with an NGO called Common Knowledge, that means that we are dedicated to both self-health of all forms and also what is common sense and common knowledge. So I received an email today from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, very well respected university in healthcare, and they sent out what is called the official advice to everybody. And you can see this on the screen now, right? So the official advice is basically to number one, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. I have to make this a bit larger. Actually, I can't read it. Um, 20 seconds each time. Avoid touching your face, cover your mouth and nose if you cough or sneeze, and try to distance yourself from others. And if you feel unwell, stay at home. If you have a fever, cough, difficulty breathing, do not go to the hospital, but call your local medical authorities first. And remember that older people and those with pre-existing health problems are at higher risk. Now, when I read that, just as a human being, I thought, okay, we have a problem here. We have a problem with the word social distancing, and we have a problem with the fact that basically people are told go home and do nothing. That is unacceptable to the vast majority of us. And so it's really important that what we do is to figure out what we can do and what we can do with both the language of what we have at the moment and what we can do for ourselves. So I've popped something else up on the screen, and I literally want to read it. It's on the screen, it's in the description, and I'm reading it because this is what our NGO wants you to all think about. So let's think about that official statement. So that official statement is basically saying to cover your mouth, keep social distancing, wash your hands thoroughly, and if you get sick, go home and do nothing. Now, that frightens the crap out of people, and it should frighten them out of it because what we're doing is we're treating everybody else out there as though we are going to catch this virus and die. And that's not actually true. This is scary. Without a doubt, it's scary. But we are using a word called social distancing. And then we are telling people, do nothing if you feel poorly. So I'm going to break this down. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to read this. So let's think about this a moment. Prevention. We may or may not be able to prevent this virus from spreading any more than any other illness. It's new and it is scary. However, instead of using the phrase, sorry, instead, let's use the phrase physical distancing, which acknowledges that this virus spreads in close contact, particularly in confined spaces, instead of using the word social distancing, which makes us feel that the other should be avoided at all costs or that we can catch this virus and die. Words really matter. We all need to start using the phrase physical distancing and permitting ourselves to socialize while maintaining a respectful physical distance during this time frame. If we continue to use the phrase social distancing, then we create fearful societies that can last well beyond the threat of this virus. And that's just unacceptable. If you understand the profound difference between being told to physically distance yourself compared to social distancing yourself, then please help spread this revised language. Yesterday, I approached 25 strangers and discussed this. all of them felt more relaxed and more comfortable when they thought about physical distancing compared to social distancing. If they all felt, if they used the word physical distancing, yep, we could all do that. But when we use the word social distancing, we feel we shouldn't even look at the other person, much less stop and talk to them. And this is nuts. Sorry, it is crazy. So let's look at the second thing. Do nothing. Go home. Isolate. Well, this is there's a huge step missing. What if you do feel you're slightly unwell? There's absolutely zero official advice. In fact, this came to me today, and that's what I showed you. If you feel unwell, stay at home. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty, do not go to the hospital. Call your local medical authorities first, and remember that older people with these pre-existing health conditions are at higher risk. And that just leaves people feeling helpless, coupled with the isolation of social distancing. All of you who don't believe gargling 3 times a day, if you believe that it is bullshit, then don't do it. But for the rest of us, if you're home, gargling with salt water or anything else commonly used that is known to soothe the throat and the back of the nose, this can reduce the viral load in our own body, which means if we cough and sneeze, there's less viral load going into the air around us that can infect others. Gargling does not cure or eliminate the virus, but it does cut down the load, and that has to be good and a worthwhile goal. We can't tell people go home and do nothing. For goodness sakes, we can't live in a world where we're afraid of one another and have no ability to self-manage. Sorry if I'm sounding a bit, I am feeling that way because it is absolutely not common sense what we're doing. We're using a language which isolates one from another, which is unnecessary. We have to keep a physical distance because we know this virus is droplet and that's how we infect each other in very close physical proximity. But that should have nothing to do with our ability to socialize. And if we were told there's nothing we can do except wash our hands and cover our sneezes, then we are absolutely causing everybody to be in a panic that if they get sick, they are going to die. And this is unacceptable in our society. And as the director of an NGO, it is my responsibility to spread other thinking about this. This virus wins if we do not change our language and bring into the official message the time-tested, commonly used skill of just plain gargling with warm, salty water 3 or 4 times a day, at least while you're feeling unwell. And this should just become common practice and spread out in the official advice. So let's put this together in a scenario using this new language and these new actions. Let's say I'm outside keeping a physical distance and I see a stranger and I stop to talk during this strange time. We keep a respectful physical distance and totally enjoy socializing with one another. We even discussed that one of us wasn't feeling too well a few days ago, so we stayed at home for 5 days and we gargled 3 to 5 times a day with whatever, warm salty water, whiskey if you want, mouthwash if you want, herbal extractions, something that soothes the throat, and now we feel better. Just compare that scenario to what's happening now. Terror, fear, helplessness. It does not have to be this way. This is not the end of the world, and we can make this time pass by making these simple changes. Use the phrase and teach all of your friends and relatives and spread it out on social media. We have to use physical distancing instead of social distancing. Crazy stuff. We do not have to socially isolate ourselves from each other. This is crazy. We need to socialize at a physical distance so we don't spread this droplet virus. And if we do feel unwell, we absolutely must do something for ourselves. We cannot feel absolutely helpless if we feel unwell. that boy, talking that much is just like a thing. So we absolutely must spread this. If you've listened to this, or if you find this on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page, and on our website, please spread the word. Use physical distancing and allow yourself to stop and talk to people at a physical distance and socialize, for God's sake. And then allow yourself to know that if anybody has any feelings of being unwell, that you gargle 3 to 5 times a day. That's at least taking the first step to reducing this viral load in our own body. We know this is true. We have done this for years. Our doctors, nurses, dentists have told us. Even our grandmothers have told us. We've been told clean our cuts so they don't fester. We've been told gargle so that the bacteria and viruses don't fester. We can do this, but we have to do it by changing the language and giving hope to people who aren't feeling well, particularly those who are elderly. Elderly people will gargle 3 or 5 times a day if they're told to. So will people with immune suppressed disorders. In fact, many of them have been told to. Chemotherapy patients are told to. After chemotherapy, gargle with warm salt water 3 or 5 times a day, and that will stop you from getting sick. We have got to make certain the official advice includes these things and changes the language. So, talk to you later. I'm a bit hoarse, so, however, I'm not feeling unwell. And I do still gargle 3 to 5 times a day at the present time because we are in hay fever season. And so it's hard for me to distinguish between whether I'm having hay fever or whether I've contracted this virus. So I self-help, and you should too. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.